What is happening, y'all? Look, had a little technical difficulties. No worries, no worries. I hope you all are having a great, uh, great day, man. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're checking into the Arrington Gavin pod. I truly appreciate it. Look, we have a great show ahead, but before I do that, I have to introduce myself. Like I do every show, I'm Arrington Gavin, host of this pod. I truly appreciate you joining me for another great conversation. Just kick back, seeing how you're doing. I always love to talk with you, the listeners, the viewers out there, because there's so much great stories and discussions to just chop it up. And here and there, I always bring some interesting guests where I have the privilege of knowing and outside of the show. And I'm like, hey, look, you gotta come on the pod. We gotta talk about this on the show so people can get a feeling of this. So yeah, so I of course I have a friend of mine, Mr. Conrad Schesventer, who is no stranger to the show. He is the host of SchezzWho. In my opinion, a great political expert who I definitely, when I talk politics with, because I can always learn something from him. And that's one the unique thing about conversations, and I always encourage it during this program, is conversations. You get to learn so much amongst each other, and it's needed. No one really sits down and just talk. Everybody's on their phones. Everybody's, I don't know, just technology or busy, have their head piling work. I mean, trust me, I understand. I'm a small business owner, so I understand when it comes where work takes over. So you just got to sit down and have a good talk. Just have a good talk. Before I bring on Mr. Schesventer, I got to shout out Miss Dakota Vibe, who I had on the last episode this past Wednesday. She is the host of Clutch My Pearls podcast. She's a media manager. What else? She's a freelance writer, and she's also a speaker at the upcoming Broken Bent But Not Broken conference, which is happening January 27th at the Holiday Inn off of Greenwich Road. So I definitely want to shout that out. If y'all haven't got your tickets, I'm telling you, they are selling out fast. So be sure to go on Eventbrite and type in Bent But Not Broken Conference. Okay, Bent But Not Broken Conference. It's going to be amazing speakers there. You're going to have also amazing vendors, meals, so much great things happening. So that is happening again January 27th. And also, too, hey, the Arrington Gavin podcast brought to you by Rugged Evolution Beer Care. Rugged is the new smooth. So for all your beer care needs, be sure to check out Rugged Evolution Beer Care. Go to ruggedevo.com. Have some great stuff going on. I heard they have some some new products happening in 2024. So be on the lookout for that as well. Also, we bring in new episodes with the Arrington Gavin pod every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time via podcast, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can tune into the Arrington Gavin pod, and also 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via YouTube. Our YouTube channel is R Smooth Club Media. Okay, R Smooth Club Media, and you can check us out on what else? On Facebook at R Smooth Club Podcast, on X as well as R Smooth Club, R Smooth Club Media, and also on Rumble. Yeah, we don't have really a huge following. I guess it's because I don't know. I guess I talk a lot about their personalities up there. But hey, it's a platform. I just want to look. I have all sorts of people who I'm close with and stuff. So I don't discriminate when it comes to social media. So you can check us out on Rumble. Try to build all my conservative friends out there who tune in. That hey, beef it up, beef it up. I truly appreciate it. Okay, now enough of my rant. I got to bring on my good friend, Mr. Conrad Schesventer. Conrad, how you doing, my friend? Oh, wait a minute. There we
Well,
go. There we go.
I was the one who hit mute on that, so that was my fault.
Oh,
But I'm doing great, sir. I'm glad to be on the Arrington Gavin podcast yet again. I was, bopping my head to the starting music to that. It's always a great little.
you got to loosen up, right? I didn't want to have no soft jazz. I wanted to have something real energetic. I love the energy, and we always have great energy when we have conversations, and of course on the pod. That's what we're all about. We just like to have fun conversations, informative, and also Happy New Year's, man. Happy New Year's. It's
Thank you.
2024, so any resolutions or any new things you're trying to hope to pursue, or goals for 2024?
Eat more protein.
Eat more pro. Okay, good.
Good. Start running again. I don't think I've done
Mm,
that in like 2 years.
wow.
And not like running like what we're going to be talking about, like literally going outside.
What? Wait,
Doing
breaking news. No.
Yeah. I get a little bit of cardio. I haven't done much of that. Got my weights together here, so I just need to get back into the vein of treating the temple like it's a temple. The upkeep needs to happen.
Hey,
And hey, if I had a beard as good as you, then I would be using that same product.
oh, stop
I would
it,
want to.
Conrad. Stop it.
Just
Stop
do
it. You're
my
making me
clothes.
blush. Okay, just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. That makes two of us. When it comes to the exercising, hey, look, I am with you on that. My wife and I, we just started. Really the beginning of the year. And it's just once you hit a wall, it goes down. So we've been motivated, getting up bright and early, going to the gym, making sure we're eating the right thing. So it's it's going to be a process, but I think, we all want to continue to, make sure we take care of our temple, right? So
The trick is not stopping.
there you go. That's the trick, y'all. You heard it here, folks. The trick is not stop. If you stop, you're screwed. So please do not stop at all. But man, look, last time we spoke, we were actually you invited me to a it's called CATS, which is, if you don't mind explaining what the listeners and viewers here, explain what CATS is.
The Community Action Team. We call ourselves the 757 Battle Cats. We're an amalgam. I finally get to use the word amalgam. People from around Hampton Roads who feel strongly about the underserved community, specifically the Black community here in Hampton Roads, and how we're able to identify some day-to-day issues. There's something needs fixing. How do we do the actual fixing part? So we coalesce as a group. We talk about the problems. We decide to organize around the idea of addressing it by applying pressure to local elected officials. If you do not mind, I would like to hop on the Facebook page for it here, and I'll read it off a little bit here.
Oh, be my guest, man.
Battle Cats is what we are. This is what we call in the biz dead air.
You know what's funny? The first time I'm not gonna lie, y'all, the first time when he told me Battle Cats, I was thinking of I'm like, is that like a Saturday morning cartoon show? Battle Cats? What? Like, I already loved the name at first.
Well, we have CAT capitalized in it for Community Action Team, and the 757, because that's what we are. Because we want representatives from Hampton, we want representatives from Newport News, Suffolk, Portsmouth, Norfolk, Chesapeake, and Virginia Beach, all the 7 cities. That's exactly what we want, and not that you'd be able to see it too well, but the 757 Battle Cats here on the Facebook page got about 916 followers right now. And I want to read off what the about is, because I would like other people to join it specifically for what we are interested in trying to fix. So the Community Action Team is an apolitical initiative focused on Black empowerment, using political and social engagement as a means toward improved community, political, and economic power. The CAT does not endorse political candidates. Our membership is voluntary. We do not permit elected or appointed officials membership in the CAT. The CAT is focused on waking the sleeping giant by engaging, educating, and guiding the community to do for self and to effectively support and compel elected officials to champion the community's concerns. So if you have grievances, join our grievances, and we'll apply direction toward the politicians. We're not doing for the community, we help the community to do for self. So our founding initiatives are, number one, a think tank, a monthly brainstorming session to develop plans for the problems that we see. 2, the stream team, social media messaging to awaken the community on issues. I like to do that part of my show as well. Speak on the issues to help germinate the interest in trying to fix them. 3, the Black Agenda Report Cards, a quarterly report on the service of elected officials. We actually grade them. I think we should treat politicians the way we sort of do our fantasy football teams.
Absolutely.
They have stats because they have voting records. And if you track them against subjects, they're either doing really good, average, or they're not doing squat. And you'd be surprised how many of them aren't doing anything. And lastly, the watchdogs monitor the activities of the school board and the city council. We awake the sleeping giant by demanding more and compelling action. So everyone who's watching, 757battlecats@gmail.com. Hit us up. We'd love to have you on.
Please do. Please do. I know a lot of you listeners and viewers out there are in the 757, so be sure to check them out. I know, hey, I know a lot of y'all have issues going on in your communities that you can't, you trust me, y'all have had the conversations with me about, your local officials and this and that and the other, and you're like, oh, well, look, you gotta do something about this, and this is one of the groups that you should join, because it's very important that we have to, what is the make sure we keep our local officials accountable, because, like Conrad has said, a lot of them, and you'll be surprised, their stat count is zero. Like they're up there for the photo op, they're up there for certain what's the word I'm looking for, certain accommodations that not everybody can receive, being a person that can that is working in a local office. A lot of them are business owners, so of course any new projects that comes to the area, they're like, hey, look, that's a real thing. Like, a lot of people love to, they're there to align their pockets, or again, like I said, just to look pretty and have the name recognition. But sometimes you want to say, like, what the hell do you do? Like, I can speak, at least in the city of Chesapeake is struggles when it comes to just voting and really having the knowledge of who's in your, who serves on your local office. We have like long-standing officials when it comes to school board and city council, and sometimes it's not the fact that they're doing a great job. It's like, well, I mean, if they don't have anybody that wants to go against them, or nobody really votes, and it's just like, hey, majority rules. And it's now to the level where Chesapeake has, and I kid you not, okay, you have, say, 9 people, I believe, on our city council, 1 Democrat. We have, I believe, the similar numbers on our school board, no Democrats. Now, I am a registered independent. I voted for Democrats. I'm a person that votes on person, not party. But at the end of the day, I do want a perfect balance, because I don't think that you should have a one party controlling the whole entire community, because not everybody goes by those values. And so I continue to build the knowledge, and with the help of Conrad, with the help of Katz, I continue to build and grow in that knowledge, and making sure I'm looking up the right sites or right groups and right experts and things like that. So it's extremely important, guys, that you do build that knowledge and start checking out your local city .gov websites, and start finding out these committees, man. I mean, it's extremely important, very important.
And if I'm not mistaken, Chesapeake is an at-large system.
It is. Yeah.
So you mentioned 9 total members on council if you count the mayor, and if you compare it to where I'm at in Portsmouth, it's 7, and you compare it to where I'm from, Virginia Beach, it's 11. So you get to see where the population is relative to both Portsmouth and Virginia Beach.
Very true.
Why would there only be 1 Democrat? That is, if you look at just the voting, even if it's like, okay, there's a lot of Republican support, what is it, 60-40? It shouldn't be 90-10. So there could be something that could be fixed there, not to just turn it and make it 9 Democrats and 1 Republican. Just make it closer to what the actual population of Chesapeake is.
Exactly. And I would say it, at least like with Virginia Beach, with the 11, I know for, you have 4 that are Democrats. Fairly fair number. But yeah, Chesapeake, we've always, been in my opinion, a very red city. But again, who are they? Who is voting, right? We spoke about before, Chesapeake was in the news because they had closed, I believe, 2 precincts during early voting in predominantly black neighborhoods, and those areas were, I would just say, and not just because of African American, but they were probably leaning towards the Democratic candidates. Even though a lot of cities, they always say, hey, I'm running as is nonpartisan race. That's bull, guys, because we all know when it comes to election and you go to certain functions, you're like, this doesn't look like a nonpartisan function to me, but
people want to know. I know
absolutely
who are politicians in municipal races. They're like, well, they're supposed to be nonpartisan. Yeah, but if they get you into a corner and ask you about positions on things, they're going to ask, hey, are you Republican or Democrat? And then you can't hide them at us.
Absolutely. And Conrad, you mentioned, so I want to, we're starting off talking about our local politics. Now let's talk about, our, some of our cities out here. Now, 7 cities, you got Portsmouth, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Newport News, Hampton, I think that might have been all. Uh,
I wrote down a little bit of notes that I was looking for, specifically the local elections. There's going to
mhm,
be school board just like there is city council and mayor races. It's
mhm,
just, as someone who wants to try to gain the knowledge of all the other six cities around me,
mhm.
I can't at the moment memorize all the school board races. So I pretty much only put down notes for council and mayor.
Oh yeah, same here. The school board is, and honestly, school board is all is a very important one
Very important.
because I would say this, and being a child of a real estate broker, school boards are always important because school boards can define also property value in neighborhoods depending on certain grade levels and things like that. I mean, not grade levels, but just yeah, the grades, like how higher up certain schools are and this and that and the other, curriculum and all that good stuff. But also too, I think school boards have been the most talked about conversations on a national standpoint, based on you go on the route of uh what to address your child, your child by. You're having a lot of elections based on, I am support of parents should have the choice to know, and this and that and the other. So you see a lot of school board meetings going viral, people fighting in school board meetings, like it's
That was in
pretty
Virginia,
intense.
if I recall. That was in Loudon. You know.
Yes, I think a gentleman had literally choked a guy.
Yeah, they
And
arrested and brought people out.
I mean, it's crazy. And see, I went to private school my life, so we never had school board meetings because we weren't under it wasn't city funded school. But it is intense, man. And if for I'll just speak, for your city of Portsmouth, which I mean, we can have a whole show, honestly, about city of Portsmouth, if we can be honest. But like, how important is the school board race for your city, in Portsmouth?
I would imagine that it's particularly important, especially for people who want to get themselves known.
Hmm.
As I wrote down notes for the council and the mayor races, I noticed going back a couple election cycles, people who are on the school board now
Hmm.
or have very recently in Portsmouth also tried to run for city council.
Mm,
It's just as much as political as the other things, but I think in the sense that how you just said that we could have a whole conversation about Portsmouth. That's
hmm.
because there is probably like a cloud that hangs over Portsmouth and it gives it a bad rep perpetually. And
Hmm.
one of the things that people might try to say is that it's probably not as good a schools as you would see in Virginia Beach. And I don't want that to be the reputation. So it's always
Absolutely.
going to be important to make sure that we have the best representatives who are running the right curriculums and making sure that the schools are getting the right funding, and most importantly, to make sure that the teachers are able to get the best working conditions and the best pay they can get. So as long as those um, elected officials are doing that, I think Portsmouth schools stand just as much a chance as Chesapeake or Norfolk.
Absolutely. And I would say too, with these school board races, it is, of course, safety is going to be everybody's common concern. But you mentioned, as far as teacher salaries. Like, I mean, my dad is an educator, and teachers don't get paid that much. And as they actually should get paid, in my mind, six figures. I know that's a stretch, but I'm just saying, you look at the amount of hours they're with your child. They're they are trying to prepare your child for, just, mentally prepared for, reality. I mean, school without education, I mean, it's a loss. All Someone told, everybody knows the saying, knowledge is power. Without that knowledge, you struggle in life. So teachers really don't get the proper respect when it comes to to salaries. And I hope, Virginia is different, and all across the US can agree to increase
That's why you
wages.
should watch the school board meetings too, because a lot of the rhetoric that led to those fightings, the Loudon stuff, is probably rhetoric. If it boiled down to it, would be anti-school board itself and anti-teachers itself because they are doing too much, I don't know, propaganda on kids or something to that effect.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
believe that. They're just trying to teach, and the
yeah,
best way to do that is to give them the tools to do that.
yeah. I totally agree. I think, again, we have politicians out there that do try to create a narrative, in the school board. I mean, and let's be honest too. School board members, they obviously they side with certain political views, just like anybody else. So, the fact, but I think it's just they're in a rough patch right now because again, if you have a teenager that says, "Hey, look, I'm feeling this or I'm doing this way," and the parent can't do it, and I've been very vocal. I do believe that a parent should know, but I don't think they should you know hold it over their child's head. It's like, for example, always keeping a secret from your parents. Like, hey, don't watch it. That's a rated R movie. Most likely, hey, look, you gone? Okay, let's watch this rated R movie. Like you're gonna, I think that should be the relationship between a teacher and a parent. Don't really, kind of pressure the child, but just at least know what's going on behind the scenes, and eventually that's up to the parent in the household to have those conversations. And I'll end it with there when it comes to school board, but I want to move it on to the council races, right? In the city of Chesapeake, I believe there's about 4 seats, 3-4 seats that will be up for
thought it was,
grabs.
I thought it was three.
Three, I
I
know,
was
I know.
basing it off of 2020 because 4-year terms would be the city council. So I know in 2020, Don Kerry won, Debbie Ritter, and
Yep.
Robert Ike. And they were doing it at a percentage clip of, I think Kerry got the most at about 19.7%, Debbie
Mm,
Ritter got 19.5%, and Robert Ike got 17.8%. And that is a spread of 17,500 voters to about 15,800. So
wow.
I was just assuming that because that was 4 years ago, I know Kerry's running again. The other two are probably wanting to come back up there.
Oh yeah, I believe Ritter. She was been in office for quite a while. I think she's one of the longer. Ike, I believe, is fairly new. This might have been his second. Um, this might be his second or third term, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, Don Kerry, who's a good friend, he is this is he's ending his first term, and as well as the mayor. The mayor's term will be up at the end of Mayor West. It will be up at
Yeah,
the end of.
I put the stats down for Rick Rest in 2020. Is that he got 65.9% of the vote,
Mm,
and that was against someone I became able to befriend in 2020 because that's the last time I was myself running, and that was Les Smith, who not Les Smith. I forgot his name, but hey, he finished second to Rick West with about 21.6%
wow.
of the vote.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't think he got nearly as much money that was able to
Mm-hmm.
raise. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Rick could become like entrenched, much like the current mayor in Virginia Beach might seem
Yep.
to be entrenched because you don't really think of mayors as to be really young and energetic. They're like cordial type of shaking hands, vote for me type thing. Because
Yep.
the show I just thought about was Doug from the early '90s at Nickelodeon. The mayor was always vote for me, giving out little things. That's how I
Very
think
true.
of a mayor.
Very true. Very
Like
true. And
so,
I remember when Mayor West was actually like an interim at the time. He wasn't at when he first was in office. It wasn't an election. I think he was like an interim, and then he eventually had the race. And you mentioned about the percentage points, very high. I mean, 65% is extremely high. And yes, money definitely. Um, but I would say as a resident, seeing Republican candidates run compared to just Democratic candidates. Uh, the the way the way they get into people's, not what am I trying to say? The campaign strategy is off because I feel as though Republicans are always in your face, and I'm not in an aggressive way, but it's like they're always any direction you turn, you see a candidate, you get some kind of literature, an event, this and that, and it's like, wow, where's that same drive from the Democrats? And I remember like I think the day of early voting, like the very day of voting, not early voting, but the day of voting, I had a pamphlet at my door, and it was with all the Republican candidates that was running for office. One of our local like magazine businesses out here, long-standing magazines that's like those corny ones you rarely read, like it's just in the mail, but I mean, hey, it's something that's been there for years. they had huge, like, page by page of all the candidates, and then you turn to Democrats, very, very small. So again, finances can be with that, but
I
I'm a
thought I saw that with the recent special election in Virginia Beach.
mhm,
That was a city council race for the District 1. And we'll get to that a bit and
mhm,
when we turn it to Virginia Beach. But I had thought going in that there was so much more enthusiasm both on the candidate's part, but also the party's part in getting John Napier to win. And he ended up losing to Chief Hutchison. And I
mhm.
have thought that they were mailing it in, and by they, I literally mean the Democratic Committee of Virginia Beach, because I thought they were just nominating a guy and then not putting in any effort.
Yep.
And damn it if it didn't win. So
I was just as surprised as you, man. I was just surprised. And that's the thing. I'm always expecting that here in Chesapeake. And I mean, you mentioned Les Smith, person we both know who
and I
is
was
actually.
thinking of Len Myers. That's my mistake. Len
Oh, yeah,
Myers,
yeah.
he was the one who last went against Rick West. Les Smith, though, also had his own races, so that was in Chesapeake.
Yep, and Les this will be maybe his fourth time running for council, and each year, the numbers get higher, which obviously you learn from past elections. But and again, he's a good friend. This was a gentleman I invited to my bachelor party, so I hope that he has it this year. And of course, I'll have him on the pod to talk more about his views and issues that he's fighting for, what to bring to the city of Chesapeake. But yeah, you have your regulars in a sense that continue, they'll always keep on running and running and running. We've had a gentleman, his name is Jeremy Rodden. He had first ran for school board, then after that he ran for delegate. Um,
I think he did
and
pretty good in terms of where in Chesapeake he was running and how much support he got. Because some might have thought that there might not have been that much A, Democrats in the area, and B, enthusiasm at all. And even though he did lose, he generated more than was otherwise
you
going
know what? He shocked the hell out of me as well, Conrad, because he was in my district, which I would say is very red. I mean, it's very, you start getting further out in the kind of country parts of Chesapeake. No, we're not having it. So I was surprised, and again too, I'm surprised as just a viewer seeing. Hold up, you run for school board, you lose, and then you run for a higher position. What? I mean, you skipped over school board. I mean, school board. You skipped over council and mayor. You went straight to that. Like, what? That goes in my mind all the time. I'm like, wait a minute, the jump. What people? Because if I lose, I'm like, okay, what can I do to continue to get to that level? Then work my way up. But if I lose from this, all right, I lost at school board. How about president of the United States? Yeah, I think I'm gonna take a jab at it. Yeah, I think I
if you have the brand, you can do it.
that is true, and I think that's politics in general right now is the brand. I think it's not even really issues too much. It's always just it's that branding, and I think with the at least the Republicans in the city of Chesapeake, branding is it's everything. They knew how to they knew which avenues, and um yeah, it's
So I would ask, what do you think could be the branding capacity, the future growth you might see out of a candidate like Don Kerry? Because I imagine could he do something that Aaron Rouse is doing because they both had a similar career track?
well, it's fun. It's funny you asked that because years ago, I had him on my first podcast I did called Our Smooth Club Podcast, and at the time I was not really new, but it was you literally just had I think like 2 years prior Aaron Rouse. You saw how he continued to grew as a community leader, as a politician. And again, Aaron was a professional football player, which nobody can do, but he was, I believe, like a 7-year player. Not nobody you could say like, hey, look, hey kid, you know who that guy? Like, I mean, but he had a great career. Don Carey, 10-year career, Norfolk State grad, very great story, and does the same thing. So you started to see, hold up, is this like a pattern of professional athletes, hometown guys coming back, becoming community leaders? Now with Don,
Watch out for Cam Chancellor, everybody.
hey, that's very true. That's very true. That's very true.
With the more.
Shout out to the Legion of Boom, man. Legion of Boom. Um, Don, the first time when he won, in my opinion, Yes, I thought the storyline was what really helped because again, a former NFL player, boom, we need to start. It's just and then on top of that too, one thing I could say is as much as the people that and I say people, I mean conservatives had disagreed with Colin Kaepernick's stance and said they were rebelling against the NFL. That's a lie. They love their football. Who doesn't love their football? So the fact of the matter is, whoa, he played pro football. Oh yeah, he has my vote already. And then on top of that too, and the
Instant
sad thing is,
branding.
the sad thing is too, and as an African American, I have to say, on the Republican side, on the conservative side, is their whole mantra right now is to bring in more people of color. They struggle hard with bringing people of color into their party. So the fact that matters, they had a conservative that was former football player. Now he wasn't very vocal at the time during his campaign about being conservative, but obviously,
And because it's municipal races, you can take party out of your rhetoric on a local level.
absolutely. And so with his branding at the time, it was perfect. Again, person of color, running for running in another conservative too. On top of that, boom, which you have a lot of city support for conservatives, and then on top of that, former NFL player. It was another great story. Obviously, we saw how great it was to hear in the city of Virginia Beach, professional football player turned politician. Hey, how about doing it here as well in Chesapeake? They
It
loved
makes
it.
me wonder, could he take on Rick West this year?
You know what? That's a good question, but to me, I just
Would the
don't.
party allow it?
I don't think so because he ran for the 89th district for House of Delegate
Did it make it
and
out of
in the primary, and he was running against Baxter Ennis and or Ennis Baxter, one of the two, and he Baxter Ennis, who ended up winning. Baxter Ennis is a 70+ year old man who's a veteran. Don Kerry is probably late 30s, mid to late 30s. Again, former professional athlete, community leader because he has a great organization that he does, and yeah, he came up short, and to me that said a lot right there because if he would have won it, okay, I would have said okay, they're standing behind him 110%. The fact of the matter is, you had this gentleman want to serve in Richmond to represent this city of Chesapeake. I just think that kind of said something. And again, I could be biased, but hey, I love to be unfiltered on this show.
Yeah.
The city of Chesapeake, as far as conservatives, I don't think they would prefer a person of color representing them in, especially that district representing them in Richmond.
So two
that
thoughts I have on that.
Mhm.
All it takes is the right break, because as you were mentioning that, I thought I'm trying to mirror it, of course, to Aaron Rouse's career trek. And remember, in 2020, there were brief talks of him wanting to run for mayor in Virginia Beach, and then he seemingly at the last minute dropped out and removed all paperwork. And Jody Wagner came in like in the same weekend. That could have been one of those treks where it didn't break his way. But
True.
he didn't do it, so then he tries to go for a special election to the state senate seat. He wins, and now he wins the general election on that. Don, all he really needs to do, he's still on council. Just need the next break. And then I'm thinking that maybe Chesapeake,
And
because Chesapeake doesn't want to see it. That could be why, for instance, we have Kiggins as the rep, because Chesapeake was added in as part of that district when it wasn't there in 2020. So,
which in my mind, that's why Kiggins really won. Kiggins had a lot of support in Chesapeake. If I might say, and again, Don is we might not agree politically, but I mean, very sharp, very respectful. Wants to see his city, build, and is willing to talk on both sides. I mean, again, I could care less what his views are, but if he runs for mayor, I mean, it will be a great thing in my opinion, because I'm just team youth right now. I'm team young people growing in politics. I don't want to see somebody with a brand new hip running. I'm sorry, I can't. I don't. But it will be interesting though. It will be interesting if he might take a shot at it. As of right now, I don't really hear about any contenders taking a leap at the mayoral race. So it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't have an opponent and he just, hey, it's another thing. People really start
They
going
happened in
towards city
Norfolk.
council.
They happened in Norfolk with Kenneth Alexander. He just went. His first race that I saw on BPAP, he beat 2 other people because the frame decided not to run again, and he raised like over $100,000 without a call. And then his next election, no one challenged him, so he only dropped down to like 68,000. I don't even know why you need to raise 68,000 if no one else is on the ballot.
I mean, just it's almost like a little it's just like your emergency money, right? Everyday fund, just in case if someone wants to slip in last minute. Oh, thank God we had that $60,000+ in the bag, just
I
in
would
case.
agree. I just like the idea of the youngsters taking
Yeah.
a little bit of influence into the government. And much like, again, I keep coming back to Aaron, but he was sort of the first in seeing local football players decide to take politics on.
Yeah.
I actually like that idea because I just like to see people who were athletes who we watched on one thing who are still young after they retire don't fade into oblivion. They take on matters of the community. And yeah, Aaron's Democrat and Dom could be Republican, but that doesn't mean they didn't want to try. And
Absolutely.
it's something I actually encourage to see more of.
Absolutely. So it would, I will be glued to Chesapeake, and of course I will be, bringing you, along on the ride, giving you those infos as well. So we leaving Chesapeake, going to Virginia Beach. So Virginia Beach actually has some pretty interesting races. Recently, I believe they had they had a special election for District 1 for City Council, and you mentioned one of those candidates before, John Napier, where I mean the advertising, it was crazy. I saw the signs. I'm like, oh, this guy,
everywhere.
he has it in the bag. I didn't even know there was another Republican candidate at the time until I actually read up on the race, and it was, I think her name was, yeah, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't see signs there at all. Now I knew about Chief Hutchins because a good friend of mine was actually helping out with oh man, well he actually no he posted newly elected delegate Michael Figgins. He helped with the with someone of his campaign ads and something like that, and endorsed the guys.
That was part of my earlier thought in terms of me thinking the Virginia Beach Democrats didn't really put a lot of effort into it. They actually did in ways I, in my bubble, wasn't able to see, and that's on me. I'm going to take the accountability on that because here I am only seeing Facebook stuff for Napier, driving signs and seeing Napier's name and seeing endorsement after endorsement after endorsement of Kiggins and other city council officials and local
state senators. I think
who weren't even in that part of Virginia Beach, but they still, because this is a district system now in Virginia Beach, so that wasn't even in that part of Virginia Beach, but they still threw their support behind him. And I'm like, well, where's the stuff that's going for Chief Hutch?
Exactly.
But apparently Michael Beggins, who is on that area of Virginia Beach, did support him. And so did, I think, Rouse and Jennifer Rouse, probably.
Okay, and see that was new because I knew about Mike, which I think just by him, acknowledging Chief Hutchins, I think it woke up because really Hutchins was running as an independent, and seeing two Republican candidates kind of having their own race between each other, I hope helped. But I think too, it's good for someone who, again, first responder. I mean, it's really hard to try to avoid that because if we can recall, for first responders that run for office, they kind of already have a higher up because there's a gentleman. Oh man, he just won a Senate race in the Williamsburg Newport News. Is it Diggs? Somebody Diggs?
There we go. Yeah, it was Diggs. Who I think also has a brother who is also in law enforcement, who is also in government now.
Exactly. So it's just that first responder really, firefighters, police officers, sheriffs, you name it. That does, that does help.
Remember, who did he replace in the seat? Rocky Holcomb, who is now the sheriff of Virginia Beach, which, by the way, people watching this, is a election that is in 2024, the sheriff race, so watch out for that.
Oh, check that out. Wow.
But was that a pipeline? Because he was an assistant, like a deputy sheriff, and then he gets appointed to this specific council seat, and then he has a general election against a very progressive friend of mine named Melissa Peck, and beats her, and then he resigns to become sheriff. Does that mean that the Republican Party gets to basically shoehorn someone in because Rocky's Republican?
Exactly.
No, and if I recall, leading up there, it was 2 or 3 month span of this election. The Republicans were referring to Hutchinson as the quote collective bargaining guy. Because he would be supporting city employees being able to collectively bargain. And now that's all that they're saying that he is now, because I watch groups like Virginia Beach Politics on Facebook, and that's a very conservative group. So they were a bit miffed that Hutchinson won, and I'm, I guess, happy that he won because I am personally a Democrat. That's the way that goes, but I guess that sort of stopped what would have been seen as an appointment pipeline type of situation. But you also got to remember, he had been over 30 years in city government as a first responder. He had his own pipeline of support because he was a war connected too. So no fault to him.
Yeah, definitely got to take that into consideration. Now the mayor's race in Virginia Beach, very popular, which one of the candidates, Sabrina Wooten, city councilwoman. I'm forgetting which district she represents.
7. She's
District 7.
Because I had notes we just did VBD 1. My former opponent in what was then Rose Hall and is now VBD 3, Michael Berlucci. He is up this year. I don't know who his opponent's going to be, but I know he's running. District 5 is the current Vice Mayor, Rosemary Wilson. District 7, Sabrina Wooten's seat was going to come up anyway, but why not if you've already been a twice elected representative of what was then the Centerville seat and is now the District 7 seat. And of course, it will come up the Virginia Beach District 8, which is currently Chris Taylor's seat, because he is also in the race for mayor, and you basically have to resign your seat in order to run for mayor. So.
And about Chris, well, for one, I think Mike. First of all, Mike Berlucci's so quiet. He's a quiet, and he's a nice guy. Like, it's so hard to like. It's like
he's never been mean to me in person. We've actually enjoyed a post-election dinner and just chatted about politics. So
he is such a likable guy. So I feel like he is. I doubt if he has an opponent, it will be interesting. But if he doesn't, prepare to probably see him again.
He dramatically overraised me. That's partially on me because I wasn't able to generate what I needed.
I'm gonna do the fingers just like that. No.
Yeah, but we ran in a district named Rose Hall, but the city got to vote on it. So it was an at-large system, and that's what went to the court, federal court, because that system being a hybrid diluted minority votes. So that system is thrown out, and then we have the district system, meaning Michael Berlucci has to run in a specific district now, which is slightly different than what it was in terms of the lines back in 2020. And it's a whole different ball of wax, because that means that even if someone is lower funded, they have a much smaller area to cover, and I think that they have a much better shot.
True. Your thoughts on Chris Taylor? Now, I know he's been a guest on your show, SchezzWho. Great conversation. I remember watching that episode, and I had interviewed him when he was a candidate on my radio show a long time ago. And again,
also another former athlete.
Basketball player, but sharp guy, business owner now. Him and his wife, I believe, have 4 locations of smoothie shops. Yeah, so they're doing very great. But do you think it's the right move? Because again, Chris is like, has it even been a year for him in as a councilman, and all of a sudden he's running for mayor?
Yeah, because maybe at absolute latest a little bit over a year if he was sworn in late December. I think though he gets sworn in very, very, very early January. So in which case, it would only be a year. He is still a rookie as a city councilman. But I think his term so far, 1 out of the 4 years, has been quite dynamic. I have seen him not be very, very aggressive, but resolute in challenging the mayor on some issues. Bellucci on some issues, and sort of joining sometimes with Jennifer and Sabrina on issues that are very important to the community. So if you're looking at it through the eyes of the community action team, he would actually score well on a lot of our measures. So we, in theory, like him, regardless if he, because the community action team being non-political, we don't think of ourselves as Democrat or Republican. We think of the community and what you're doing for it. And even if he may or may not be Republican, he has done some pretty good things so far that you can't just throw him away as a nonsense candidate. He's a very serious candidate. And I'm going to give him his full flowers on that. I don't know his existence prior to him running. That's just the way sometimes this works. And now we actually text and do some messaging back and forth. He's a very back and forth type of person, which is also another thing.
I was going to say, which is a plus. Yeah.
And so I'm going to give him props for that. And because I didn't know who he was going into the election, I would have thought like that John Andrews individual who he beat like 42-29 in terms of points, who got close to like $100,000+ in his race, and Chris beat him only doing about 50.
Yes.
That's some pretty good stuff. If you can do it by being the lower cost candidate, you'd be surprised what you could do on a citywide election.
Two things about I guess say about Chris. The night when he won, because I was going to both campaign watch parties. I had literally I went to Elaine's first, drove to Elaine's, and then I went to the the Jen Kiggins. I say Jen, but it was more racist. I'll just say the Republican one and Democrat one. Went over to the Republican one, ran into him. He was very passionate, saying, "Hey, look, I told you I'm not." He was very vocal about not accepting money from big corporations for his campaigns. Like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. Very vocal, and he won. Very vocal about that. Also, another buddy of mine who is he says he's a libertarian, but I don't know. He squeezes the
I will be the judge of that. I used to be one. So.
Well, then look, he is very, very more on the right, and he is not a fan, and he considers which he says a lot of other strong conservatives consider Chris as a rhino. Somebody that says he's Republican, but really leans.
Previous phrase. How many? Because we're going to talk about the presidential election, but how many current Republicans who would do all their efforts to try to bring Trump down are going to get called rhino? And if you look at what they do in terms of politics, if they were given a bill or what they would pass a bill, it would be the same thing Trump would do. So because of that,
I never liked the term. I've really never cared for the term because, again, as a person that's never been married to a party, I'm like, well, it sounds like he's still going to stay hold of his views, but it's a matter of what's right and what's wrong in a sense. So he's just very passionate, and like you said, he's challenged the mayor, he's challenged Bellucci. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to see in office. And again,
challenge corporations that are pretty big too. Remember, Amazon's trying to bring in a couple things in Virginia Beach.
Man,
he was like the one vote against it, and even the progressives. I'll mention her by name, Jennifer Rouse, who voted for it. I'm like, why? Why? And he gave pretty good. Call it whatever if you want, but it's good reasoning why that particular community might want to pull back on seeing that particular business as opposed to other types of businesses come in. Why have the gigantic worldwide conglomerate do it? And some other things like Something in the Water and other music fests coming through. He has put some pretty good voice to concerns held within it that I would like other council people, Democrat or not, to make similar voices heard. Maybe if you look at it in a strict money sense, it pays more to be a little bit more fiscally conservative on a municipal seat where you literally have to tax to raise it, as opposed to my view on the federal, you could more print and do a lot more deficit spending that cities can't do. So you could afford to be more progressive when it comes to national issues than you can on local issues. Not that you would have to be completely, but you can balance it pretty well on a local thing. I think he does it very well.
So it almost, it sounds like, Conrad, like, I mean, this is going to be a pretty tighter race than I expected, because Sabrina Wooten, very well respected in her community, very, she's another vocal one. I mean, council really, they stay strong with a lot of their candidates, and very vocal, what they do
Yeah,
in their
she's
communities.
another one who's defeated me in the past, because her first race was in 2018, coincidentally my first race in the Centerville seat.
Mm-hmm.
Again, at large in 18 and at large in 20 for her, and both Centerville seats when she ran. But each time I'm thinking she's getting either very near or above 100,000 votes. And this is stuff that you see the mayor would get. I really like, she's not on council right now, but Jessica Abbott used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And Jessica Abbott would not probably raise more than 50,000 in her races, but she would actually get the most votes out of any candidate. And I'm using 2020 as an example, more than the mayor, more than Joe Biden got in the city of Virginia Beach, more than Trump got in the city of Virginia Beach, more than the Senate races and the Congress races. Based on the literal parameters of Virginia Beach, Jessica Abbott got it, and she raised a relatively small amount of money. So all it takes is how you reach what you're saying. I think Sabrina can do that very well too, because a lot of things she has done, especially good for small business.
Yes,
and that's something that Chesapeake needs, Norfolk needs, Portsmouth needs, Virginia Beach needs. We all need it here because we want to grow our economy and give us good paying jobs. And her series, the Ignite series, has been a hit. She's had to fight for it more than she would have thought she would have needed to a couple of times. And I'm glad she stood her ground. In that sense, she's very like Chris. When it comes down to it, she's going to say what she needs to say. And in fact, there's an Ignite series coming up soon. I forgot the location of it's at. I'm going to try and attend that.
Mm-hmm.
This is stuff that she does good for the community. And if she was able to get over 100,000 plus the first time and about 108, 110,000 the second time in 2020, at the same time the mayor, Bobby Dyer, was getting roughly that much, then you have a situation going into 24 where all of them are back in the at-large race, because that's the only at-large race would be the mayor race.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby's doing it. John Moss, who was at large, who finished second to Aaron Rouse in 2018, and had he was in his district race and lost in 2022. So he comes back into being what he can be in a at-large situation. And he gets Sabrina and Chris all into that. That's the most dynamic looking race, I think, in terms of a municipal seat in the Hampton Roads area. I currently believe.
Well, you know what? I think Conrad might have to try and hit up all these candidates, at least in Virginia Beach, and have a conversation, man. Because I'm liking what I'm hearing. Because I will talk about Bobby Dyer, but honestly, no really hard comparison from Mayor West, Bobby Dyer. So obviously, I'll digress this convo. Move on to your city of Portsmouth, because they also have a mayoral race too.
Yes.
With Councilwoman, no, I'm sorry, yes, was she
Councilwoman Louise
Lucas, and then Mayor Shannon Glover. Portsmouth is, it has always been the city that is like, oh, don't go to Portsmouth, because I'll the quote unquote like 11 o'clock news city, in a sense. You always hearing something going on.
Unfortunately, which I just experienced a couple nights ago.
Yes.
I live on Greenway Court,
and I'm very happy you and your wife are safe and doing great. But that, again, you, for your first hand, like, you witnessed that. And I have a lot of friends and people that I know in the city of Portsmouth. Portsmouth is a historic city. You have High Street, a very historic area. Crime right now is a big thing, but what we have been seeing is council not being on one accord. Now, they've had some new people added on to council, but not everybody's on one accord. And see, that affects the citizens and the residents of Portsmouth, where they're like, hey, we're losing trust in y'all, man. Y'all need to get it together. What's happening?
One of the measures of the CAT team actually is political teamwork, and we score them whether or not they work well with others. And Portsmouth is like one of the cities foremost in a low score for political teamwork because there seems to be two rather strident blocks within the 7-member body that don't like each other. And they use it sometimes to specifically get the city manager out, which is why I think we have so much turnover in the city managers in Portsmouth, is because they try to use that as a tool against the other block. And right now, perhaps stability could be used if we just keep the current one, Miss Mimi Terry, as the city manager for a while. We can just get back to just doing politics the way you think it should be done on a municipal thing, where you just vote for the best thing possible, as opposed to 4 versus 3 this, 4 versus 3 that. Sniping at each other. That's another thing Portsmouth makes the news for, in the sense that the city council has been pretty vocal in online presence.
Yeah.
People cursing and stuff at each other. Louise Lucasberg was the one to do that, which I actually would give her props for doing that.
It was content gold from my I loved it. I love the energy. I love the energy. I think that definitely attracted young people, because one thing, at least for me, I've always trying to continue to let my friends of my age and younger know, hey, look, the importance of voting. You have to know what's going on in your communities. Stuff like that attracts them because they're already fans of social media, TikTok, Instagram. Like, why not? Now, the fact they saw that, and let's be honest, Louise Lucasberg, she's no dummy. I mean, her mother, Senator Louise Lucas, who is probably the second most powerful woman in the state of Virginia, they know what is gonna get eyes to look at them. They know what is gonna.
And debatably the first most powerful.
Yeah, most likely. I say second behind the lieutenant governor, but most likely.
more on that later if we go into prospects for the governor race. But yeah.
But I would, they know how to get their message across, and that's what's so unique and big about really the Lucas family, right? And we spoke a little bit before about how are we going to see this race go between Shannon Glover and Louise Lucas. And again, I'm not a resident, but just as a viewer, I think she has it in the bag. Now, I've talked with Mayor Glover. Very very cool cat, very just respectable, humble guy. I hope to bring him on for an interview, but sometimes you just can't be the soft-spoken, really sincere dude when you're the mayor of a city that doesn't have a good reputation, in the local, in the public eye, right? So I mean, it's good to be nice, but it's just, you do want to hear the okay, what to do, what is next, what do you plan to do to make this change? I'm tired of hearing about the Rivers Casino and stuff like that. Okay, put that aside, right? What is going to happen? We mentioned with schools. What is going to happen with crime? What is going to happen with certain development that's like just vacant buildings? I know City of Norfolk has a bunch of just vacant properties where it's like, all right, do you have a ghost town? What's the deal? You have a lot of homeless people out, but I see a lot of vacant buildings. I get so tired when I see that. That's me random, but what's your take, Conrad, on this mayoral race? Do you see it being close? Do you see it being a far stretch?
Well, let's see. When Glover ran and won in his most recent race, he got about 35.5% of the voting block. Remember, that's at large, just like the city council is in Portsmouth, with about 15,300 votes. If I compare that to what Louise Lucasberg was able to do, Lisa Lucasberg, she got 17,100 votes when she was running for council. So she got 2,000 more votes for a lesser seat than Glover when he ran. There are natural advantages you get to being the incumbent. Perhaps he'll get a decent amount of support behind it. But the thing is, all of that can go away if another great personality who's also long-term in the city, like her, could come about. And you're right. I think she would have the momentum on her side. A lot of people will probably like her personality because it seems like she gives a little bit more of a damn, as you can tell by what she did that particular night and some other nights too. I think it brings a little bit more, hey, I should watch this race, than just what it was. Just like when Sabrina jumps into the mayor race in Virginia Beach and Chris jumps into the mayor race in Virginia Beach, because that's like, those are two people who are on council. They're not just random names. these are serious people. She's already on council. Perhaps, compared to Virginia Beach again, we would need another situation like I don't know, Mark Hugel wanting to run
Yeah.
for mayor or something, and then you would have a three-person race of all serious, respected people, and then it's like that's where it gets really, really interesting. It's no longer the great party support or something. So it's just who can win them in terms of how to reach people, social media wise, ad buys on the radio and things like that. I think she might have maybe a money advantage, in which case she'll probably be able to get more of that. Maybe it comes down to who wins the Martin Luther King Jr. committee, because that is very big in Portsmouth. Perhaps she would have the advantage on that, and that could turn the entire tide. By that time, it's just I'm much more interested in the race because there are two serious people who are already incumbents fighting it out.
Okay. Like it. Well, let's move it on to to the state. We finished we've talked about some of the local cities in our area, and we'll continue this conversation even more in the future. But let's talk about what we know now, state elections, right? Governor's races, the gubernatorial race. Our current governor right now, Glenn Youngkin, didn't end the year off, the way he wanted it. There was an historic win of the Senate and the House being taken over by the Democrats, and we've had a lot of history being made with Representative Delegate Don Scott, who is, I believe, the first African American Speaker of the House, and Senator Louise Lucas as well. She made history, and so it was a big, it was a pretty big. I mean, this was national. I think CBS this morning actually had Don Scott when he was getting sworn in, because it was an historic. I mean, his story is remarkable. I highly recommend y'all to read up and look up on Don Scott, Delegate Don Scott, a man who publicly, he spoke about his story. He served 7 years in prison, 7 years. Came out, and now he is the first African American Speaker of the House for the state of Virginia, and well deserved as well too.
I think he might be considered particularly savvy in his ability to rise, because he got in the legislature, but if I am not mistaken, he led what became the taking over the leadership role in the Democrats by removing Speaker Philip Corn from another part of Virginia. I think he was the one who led that charge. And that's a Portsmouth rep who is now.
That's right. Right.
I think we touched on that in the CAT meeting last night as well. It's just a great image to see how much greater Black representation there is now at the top level of Virginia government.
Yeah. Agree 100%. Agree 100%, because again,
it's bipartisan.
There you go. No, I agree 100%, because again, if you look at the history with the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth state, there was not a lot of opportunities for people of color, and now seeing, like Conrad had said, at higher positions is truly, a stepping stone. Really, it's truly a big step for the state of Virginia, and just for the culture. But yeah, Glenn Youngkin didn't have a good time last year, but again, he's always been well, in my opinion, I initially, and let me know what your thought on Governor Youngkin, but I'm thinking more moderate Republican. He's always been kind of like the soft-spoken guy, but
that's his act.
That's the act. Okay. All right. I was waiting for that one. So he acts of moderate, but yet he does support strong right views and and legislation. So he has a race ahead of him where he has, I believe, 2 candidates who had come out wanting to run for office. Abigail Spanberger, yes.
She's, I would say, more of a moderate Dem.
Okay.
But not like Joe Manchin moderate, but like not as progressive as I am. But nonetheless, she already being a House member of the United States House of Representatives could carry a lot of momentum into that.
And then we also have Mayor LeVar Stoney of Richmond, young guy.
There's the Richmond pipeline, because remember, Kane was a mayor of Richmond.
Oh, Tim Kaine?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that. I didn't know. See, learn something every day. I did not know that. Yeah, Levar Stoney, again, young guy, very passionate. Has close ties with former governor. Oh Lord, I'm
Doug
drawing a blank
Waller,
here. Not Wilder. The gentleman. Well, that Youngkin beat.
Terry McCullough.
Terry McCullough. Terry McCullough. Yes, has some strong
That
ties with.
might not necessarily help him out
I
because
don't. I don't think so either.
Terry was good. He's good at fundraising, and
Hmm.
he has won before. So I'm not saying he's completely incapable, but he developed divisiveness within your own party.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
do that, that's not necessarily long-term success in a statewide situation, as he learned when he lost to Glenn Youngkin, who had the complete support of the Republicans behind him.
Yeah, yeah. No, no. It was a race that's nobody would forget because again, not a lot of Democrats really that wasn't their choice. They had two other candidates that they would sure love to see represent.
One of them who's
Um
now a congresswoman in Jim
yes,
McClellan.
Gentleman McClellan. I mean, she had it in the bag in my opinion. Yeah, of course you had
Watch
former
out for
Lieutenant.
Jennifer Carroll Foy, though. I think she might make waves in the future.
Okay, we definitely gotta put that name down and look towards that. But yeah, you have Youngkin having two opponents. Um, do you see a new governor in the future,
Well,
Conrad?
that's because of the caveat that legally it has to happen.
Okay.
Based on the way the terms are, it's not impossible to have a second term as a governor. You just can't run it consecutively.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a relic from Thomas Jefferson's time. But in any case, Glenn Youngkin simply, even if he doesn't do anything else, he can't run for re-election. I think he legally could run for like lieutenant governor if he wanted to or something like
Oh
that.
wow,
But he
wow.
can't run for governor. Even if he's at 100% approval rating, he can't do it. But I don't think he would be as successful as he recently was, partially because he needed to be against Terry to win, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah,
And there's
yeah.
no guarantee that Terry McCullough probably would have been better if Terry just raised all that money and gave it to Jennifer McClellan.
Agreed.
Because there's a lot of, back to the soul of the Democrat Party, there is more of that with a lot of other candidates than Terry. If you generate enthusiasm within your base, you're going to turn out a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that beats a heavily turnout Republican wave could be easily relatively beaten by a heavily turnout Democrat wave. I mean, look at the legislature now. That is a
Mhm.
breakdown that is Democrat heavy in both the Senate and the House, even with what was seemingly a popular governor in Glenn Youngkin, because it was like, man, he could be another rising GOP star,
Yeah.
someone who might run for president. And if I'm not mistaken, we pontificated that he might do that very soon. But I think that has come and gone because a lot
Yeah.
of the other people who were at the time shooting up the Republican presidential ranks, like Vivek and Chris Christie, they have relatively dropped. Now, Chris Christie literally and Vivek passively, because he didn't even make the Iowa caucus debate stage. That was based on polling, and I don't think Glenn Youngkin would have got even 20% of Vivek's numbers. So I think he made the wise move about trying to run for president. But that doesn't mean he wouldn't want to run for Senate. And when was the last Republican senator of Virginia? Was that John Warner? I think.
No, not John. No, was it John Warner? No, it wasn't John Warner. Uh,
Maybe
uh,
John Warner.
was it John Warner? I think it was. I think it might be right. Hold on. Let me check my fact team real quick.
Yeah, because he was sort of the old wave Republicans. And when I think about that, when I did electoral politics at Old Dominion in 2008, I took a class headed by G. William Whitehurst, Dr. Bill, who was a congressman in the Virginia's District 2 in the 70s and 80s. Very
Oh yeah,
popular.
it definitely had to be him because he finished in 09.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely
Yeah,
John
and
Warner.
then it's been Warner and Kane back and forth for a couple of election cycles. And
Long time.
Yeah.
I would say what do you think if and of course Congresswoman Kiggin, she already made her public announcement running for re-election. She had Congresswoman Elise Stefanik as her guest speaker.
Yeah, a lot of the local Republicans were happy that Elise was there because I think she, according to them, helped bring down the Harvard president based on free speech things. I'm like, I
I
wasn't even
mean,
following that story enough to know if she even played that big of a part anyway.
I mean, I will say this about defending the reason why I'm not a fan, which obviously Kiggins is a part of that crew too, not calling the January 6th rioters, they're calling them hostages, American hostages. They're
Trump
under.
said that recently.
I
Yeah.
mean, give me a freaking break. It's again, this is the whole issue when it comes to why people just get sick of the whole political scene. Really, it's just clear as day. If
It's
anybody,
important
what were you about to say?
because it's important because we know that that take isn't serious because it's not literally true,
Mm-hmm.
but it is politically serious because almost 48% of the voting Bible list does believe it to be true. And they were also part of, or not so much necessarily themselves, part of a group that would have went to the Capitol with the rest of the people.
Mm-hmm.
They would have not tried to stop them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that is, again, I can't say it's not serious because it's very serious. It's just it's not. It's like I'm looking at a mirroring reality. They're there. I can see them, but they're not here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hate that we are that divisive because otherwise you can be working with them. You're going to be buying food from them. You do everything part of this economy and community.
Oh, they
with
they
them.
could look. They could be your next door neighbor. They could literally
Exactly.
be like, because there was a quite a number of people from Virginia. I wouldn't say the Hampton Roads, but at least Virginia. They had said that participated in in that. So it's
I know.
pretty
I know
intense.
one specific person who is credited of taking a photo from January 6th and had posted it
Wow.
on his Facebook. Who had signed my ballot petition as recently as 2019, I believe.
Wow. Wow.
So I'm like, I know a person who did it. So not did it like he went in because his picture was at the Washington Monument, but I think it was a picture of just the group as they're getting
Wow.
ready to go down. I'm like,
Well,
well,
and
I would not have
sidebar.
gone to DC.
Oh my God, crazy! I mean, my sister, she works in DC, works for FEMA. Her office is literally like down the street where they were like marching. So first person I'm calling is her when that had occurred. But also, and just this is a little sidebar. Recently, the man that was like was his nickname the shaman or what the guy that with the paint and the bull. Oh, he
Yeah,
ran for Congress in the state in Arizona, and I'm like, what is
yeah.
happening here? What is happening? So, and that was just a little sidebar. But before we end this convo, man, I'm heading to our last discussion. We gotta talk about the presidential race. Presidential race happening. We obviously just had the most recent election debate between Governor Ron DeSantis and UN Ambassador Nikki Haley in Iowa. Really, fighting for second place at this point, just because the poll numbers with Trump being so high, and of course, in Trump fashion, he had a separate broadcast happening on the on Fox News, a town
Right.
hall, and
Which
during the exact same
that's
time.
still brilliant. Even if we don't like Trump, that's still very smart stuff to do. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, actually, and I read too, Vivek Ramaswamy, even though he's pretty much the behind DeSantis and Haley, he also had a town hall. There's a political podcaster by the name of Tim Pool, and
Who's
he is
quite a lot of views. Yeah.
yeah, he is very, very, very popular. I've tried, I've watched a few of his shows. I mean, he's it's hard to describe what his views are. Well, it's not really hard, just based on who he normally brings on. I mean, this guy has interviewed uh Alex Jones multiple times, and I'm sorry. I'm a person, I love to have conversations with everybody, and that that I don't agree with, but I could not have that man step foot in my in my door.
Because you would lose control of your own show.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the thing. Tim Pool had it was a part of a town hall. He had it was Vivek, I believe. I believe, oh God, what's her name? Candace Owens might have been in attendance, and then there was another congressman who has been pretty vocal about being a white supremacist, and that was a part of his his friends. He made a post recently on his Twitter account about hanging out with them and stuff. So everybody kind of had their own little thing, but obviously most of the views was on the debate between Haley and
Yeah, because personally, I think Vivek wants to get into that.
mhm.
I think he would like to be on Candace Owens' level, if not more, maybe up with Ben Shapiro, because I think that's how he wanted to get into. He seems like the guy who wants to talk about politics more than be
More
about
than
politics.
absolutely. I
And you can make a lot of money doing it. I mean, heck, we ourselves would like our shows to be so great that we can monetize it to financial independence. Not that he needed it as being a pharmaceutical company CEO or whatever
yeah.
he was. He's very, very rich already, but I think that's what he wanted. I think he's achieved enough that he could be successful at it going forward.
We're just too damn nice, Conrad. Maybe if we just get a little aggressive, maybe the millions would start
There's
coming in. No,
partial truths to that in the sense that I think people just like watching and listening to dynamic personalities.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he made his points. He did a lot of punching with Nikki Haley, which we saw last night with her punching back at DeSantis. Then again, they both started at each other, and that was at a point because we think of it objectively like none of them are within like 15 points in Iowa or New Hampshire of Donald Trump, who's not
Mhm.
even putting in the effort to fight them back on a public stage.
Mhm.
He'll do it at his speeches and maybe do an ad, but and he had been doing it for over a year with DeSantis. But no matter what they tried to do, they never were able to get within shouting match of Trump, which means because of that, they can't really debate him because doing so would lose further support that they could have gotten. And here's what I think they're waiting for. They might believe that with all his legal troubles, somehow he might be removed from the ballot, which means they're able to win the nomination by default. And I think maybe they're not necessarily trying to be his vice presidential nominee because Trump doesn't like DeSantis anymore. And I don't think he likes Haley as much anymore, especially if she gets closer and closer to that 15, 10-point range.
Absolutely.
That makes you think that, he would no longer welcome them back in, except for lesser roles in the administration, which that's the thing with Christie. When he says that he's doing this just to make sure Trump doesn't win, you came to the party late. You were in his administration to begin with. And I think you may personally got burned. That's why you suddenly don't care that he's been doing a lot of illegal stuff.
Yeah.
And DeSantis doesn't care. Haley doesn't care about what Trump has done as president and what he did afterwards. Because if they are vocally able to do that, then any chance that they had at being somewhat successful and just the primary is gone. When it came to being nominated to replace Trump if he's removed, they would have already been too soured among their own base. Remember the rhino term? They would have been confused with rhinos, even though they're just as heavily conservative as the standard hardcore conservative is right now in American politics. And in some issues, Trump is to the left of them.
Which is hilarious. Well, Trump is he's his own self. He really is. He's a showman. He loves some him. I mean, again, years ago, I've actually been in Trump Towers in Chicago, and when you literally have your name on everything, including the toilet paper, it's a little scary. A little scary. I guess it's a little too much for me.
That's why he's able to be so successful in what he does.
Yeah.
His Trump brand is so much that the whole party is essentially his. Not that he has the financial wherewithal to buy the party, but if he could, what would be the difference? What would be the difference if he bought the Republican Party? Because it's the Trump Party, really.
It is, and it's only but like a small handful of Republicans that are really very vocal about. Oh, we got to get this guy. Like I was listening early this morning on CNN, the former lieutenant governor of Georgia, who's a Republican. I mean, he couldn't say nothing but the worst things about Trump. There's so many other.
Kemp wasn't.
No. It wasn't.
Kemp was the attorney general, if I recall.
Kemp was the governor. He was actually the governor of Georgia. Lieutenant governor. Oh, I forget.
That would have been the guy who was on the phone call that they recorded. Trump saying that he needs just 11,300 votes or something.
Absolutely. And I mean, and that's the interesting thing. A lot of commentators now on a lot of different outlets, they're getting the because it is the Republican presidential race at the moment right now. They're interviewing a lot of Republicans and getting their thoughts on what they think about Trump. And honestly, Trump doesn't have they're publicly vocally saying that they don't support him, but again, it's all about what matters when it comes to the ballot box. Whoever is going to be there, they're going to trust me. They're going to vote for the person who's ever on that party, regardless. Now, if there are going to be people that might be supporting, third party, because during the New Year's, man, I actually got this pamphlet because there was I don't know if you can see this. I had got this in my hand from a table of people that was holding their
Was it RFK's actual campaign or some other PAC or something they gave?
I don't, that's a good question. I want to say it was the actual campaign. So I was in Town Center during the New Year's, and there was by the Sandler Center, there was a table of ladies, and they, the whole table said Kennedy. They just had these out. So it could be Packett. It could be, I'm not really aware. I just know that
goes to show you that I guess he's caring a lot about getting his name on the Virginia ballot, which means
absolutely.
You could see, even if he doesn't have a D or an R by his name, him simply being on the ballot is significant statewide, because it'll throw off, in theory, whether it would have went to the Republican or the Democrat. But are there also going to be Dr. Cornel West's name in Virginia? Is there going to be Jill Stein, the Green Party rep?
Yes.
If I recall, she was on the ballot in 2020.
Twice. She's a two-time presidential nominee for it.
And she's now, because Cornel West dropped to be an independent, she's now running for president again as the Green Party. So you get Jill, Dr. West, RFK. The Libertarians are the largest third party. They don't have someone yet because they will have their nominating process in the next couple months. That was the first SchezzWho episode. Let me give 1 second to stop Cam to put on that little SchezzWho app right there. Was Chase Oliver, who I thought was a very interesting person. Whether or not you could see yourself voting for a libertarian, if you sat down and talked politics with someone like Chase, you're going to have an in-depth conversation, and that would be something better than you would get out of, say, Trump, or what many perceive to be Biden now because of alleged declining mental faculties. But I don't think, even if Biden was as sharp as he was with Paul Ryan in 2012, his poll numbers would be any better. And that's like over a page of my notes. It's just what I had on what is perceived to be a collapse of popular support for Joe Biden. Trump isn't really getting more popular. Biden's falling that much.
Biden's worse.
So, yeah, Trump is leading him, but I don't see that he did it by eclipsing his low 40s approval rating, or mid 40s. Biden just needed to fall into the low 30s, and that came from many different groups that were going to be what he needed to recreate 2020. It came from a lot of support, enough that he beat Trump in the popular vote by about 7 million, which is like, 3 Philadelphians. He did that more and still only narrowly beat him in the Electoral College, because the Electoral College exists, there's a slight Republican advantage on that. So he had to outperform in the popular vote just to close it up on the Electoral College. And he lost this.
Well, and the thing what kills me when I even hear people talk about Trump. I mean, obviously I'm trumped out. I don't even want to I barely can even say the T sometime in Trump. But it's just the more criticism Trump gets, the more growth that helps. Like, okay, right now we rarely see him talking because he's going in and out of courtrooms, like from state to state. When does he even have the time to do a town hall, right? But at the end of the day, when people get footage of that, they're like, oh, that's going to make me even vote him for more. Oh, he got banned from this state. Well, I'm going to put his name down there regardless, because
here's the thing. I just don't think those are new people. I think that the concept of Trump being a martyr and now I have to support him because he's being persecuted are people who otherwise weren't going to vote Trump because they liked him the first time.
Good point. It's a good point. I don't know. I might have to. Oh no, Conrad. I might have to kind of disagree. I just think that Trump is so.
Oh, I very well
I
could
think.
be wrong. I've been wrong so many
Well, I
times.
just think he.
I'm right.
I just think he's so likable by young conservatives. I really do. I think he's. I
That
think
well,
he's. I
that's
don't know
because you said
why.
conservatives. That's because you said conservatives. You didn't necessarily said young people. The
Oh,
young
true,
people
true, true.
group. That's one of the little notes I had for Biden. Biden won young people by 27 points on Trump in 2020.
Mhm.
Right now, he's down about 3 to 4 points on young people. But that doesn't mean young people went to Trump. Young people were watching television. I wouldn't
Mhm.
say reading newspapers because no one does that anymore. Watching late night news, specifically internet. There's enough of our own bubble. I don't think it's because there's a great conservative groundswell of
Mhm.
the youth. They
Mhm.
should want that. Every party should want that because you need to replace. But I think that's just a relatively static number compared to Democrats and independents, which have lost a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for
Yeah,
Biden for so
yeah.
many different reasons. And youth vote, black vote, Hispanic vote, Muslim vote now because of the Israel Hamas thing.
Mhm.
Um, it's a relative perfect storm to add to the fact that the economy's inflation stuff was just giving people a little bit of sour edge, plus things that we had wanted him to do that he didn't do, which would make the standard progressive not like him. There's, like I said, it's a perfect storm of people fleeing him, and I don't think they're going to Trump. I think they're going to go to RFK or Dr. Cornel West or Jill Stein or
Yeah.
just down ballot or sit at home.
Yeah. Well, and we're talking about third party and the Republican Party, but we can't forget, the Democrat now has quite a bit of candidates on their side. That obviously Marianne Williamson,
Dean
who
Phillips,
Dean Phillips,
Cenk
Cenk
Uygur.
Uygur, founder of the Young Turks, and obviously Joe
I
Biden.
like
So
the idea of Uygur running. It's just he has to fight legal battles just to even be able to run because he was born in Turkey. You have to
mm,
be, even if he wins it, he had to do the fight anyway, which would take away from his ability to grow and momentum. And he already had something to start with because The Young Turks is a very popular internet show.
and I believe he was he a congressman before, or at least ran for
He,
congressman.
he ran for Congress. I
He
think
ran for
he
Congress. Okay.
finished in the top four of the primary, um, but he didn't win it.
So do you think, candidates like him is like almost like another Chris Christie in a sense? Like, you're just like a fill-in, like you're just like, is it really gonna,
No,
sometimes I
Mr.
just like, why?
Euchre, Mr. Euchre is basically Christie in the sense that he is focusing on saying Biden won't win. So that's why you have to have a replacement. Hence why he is running because he wants to be the replacement. Then again, so is Dean Phillips wants to be.
Mm,
Marianne was in from like a year ago, so it's not like she recently got in. And I think in many ways the Democratic National Committee is doing all of them wrong because they're
yeah.
not even giving the chance for them to give a party version of making their opinion. We are seeing a primary. Trump is still
Which sucks, by the
relatively an
way. It's
incumbent.
ridiculous.
Yeah, they've canceled 5 state primaries, big states too, like Florida. It's undemocratic, is what it
Yeah. I
is.
really I really don't see you know, when it's time to vote on a new chairperson for the DNC, I don't see Jamie Harrison really holding that forward. Because honestly, you said it right. You nailed it on the head. There has been no, and there's a reason why I know News Nation is actually going to be Dan Abrams is going to sit down with oh god, the three candidates all at the same time: Williamson, Cenk Uygur, and Dean Phillips. He has spoken with them before individually, but he's going to have all of them on to really speak on there, because really there is no outlets which we can say, hey, CNN, the struggling CNN trying to find its place now, because they've obviously, they tried to be, very strong left, and
And
then
how
that
often do you
didn't work.
see Marianne Williamson on CNN? How often do you see Dr. Cornel West on CNN or RFK?
Never,
You
never.
do see him on Fox.
Oh, absolutely. See, I've
Yeah.
seen Dr. Cornel West on all the conservative networks. But I think I don't even know if he's been on Newsmax, but he was on Russell Brand's podcast, which is is signed under Rumble. He's been on MSNBC. He's been on Oh God, he's been on News Nation. He's no, he's been on other, but not CNN. And again, see, we can have another conversation honestly about just really the news media right now and how they're how they're doing, because that's really a story of its own, with all the outlets really trying to who's trying to be number one, who is trying to really focus on the what's best for the people, what is the, I guess, the slogan, the product that they're trying to sell. Because as of right now, and this is just another sidebar, uh, X, which is owned by Elon Musk, he's actually trying to put his realm as a streaming service and somewhat of a network, for I guess
Doesn't the
people to
URL still say Twitter?
It does still say Twitter, but it has the X, so I always say X, formerly known as Twitter.
He's dead
But
naming his own company.
but you know what? They had made some headlines because recently they just signed three known commentators. They signed Don Lemon, who we haven't seen for about a year, or not a year, but at least close to it.
I wonder if they
Who
should go for Mehdi Hassan, because Mehdi was just fired from MSNBC.
that's a good point. They might. Mehdi Hassan had been on Al Jazeera for like a rotating host along with Mark Lamont Hill. So I don't know if he will stay with that full time. If he's gonna go, I don't think he's a little too. I don't think he's News Nation material. I couldn't see. It would be nice. To me, News Nation has got to have a little more diverse voices with them. I like what they have going on. But they need. I was hoping that maybe. And I'm not crazy about Don. I'm really not crazy about Don Lemon, but it would be nice to say, okay, look, you got if you have Chris Cuomo, hey, maybe take a shot at Don Lemon, or not even Don Lemon. Maybe bring on oh man, the gentleman you just named, Hassan. That would probably be a good person to have more of a weekday show and not a weekend show, because they're still growing. They're a growing company. But yeah, it's just with the outlets now, man, they're struggling. And again, CNN is pretty much the last place out of all of them right now that's struggling the most, just trying to revamp and do all these shows
for more than a few years.
Yeah, like they started a new show, a weekly show with Gail King and Charles Barkley. I mean, hey, I'm fans of both of them, but it's like, okay.
Charles Barkley seems like the guy who would have had a killer internet show in the 90s.
Look, he started too late, but hey, they're paying him a lot of money though. But Conrad, man, I know you. Look, I don't want to keep you too long, man, but I truly appreciate the conversation, and of course, you're always welcome back, man. We definitely gonna have some more programs, y'all. Look, so myself, the Arrington Gavin podcast, and SchezzWho, we've actually done one special. We've done a election night special, and we hope to bring on some more by interview. We've spoken on the show just now, interviewing some of our local candidates, mayoral candidates, city councilman candidates. Even hope to get gubernatorial candidates. You never know who we're going to bring on. Why not, right? Why not? But man, I truly appreciate the time you taking out your busy schedule to come on the pod. Look, how can people continue to support and follow you and check out your programs?
Yeah, the first one, my own program, is SchezzWho. See it right there. That's the logo. Granted, I haven't done a show yet this year, but I'll hop on those as soon as I can. As you know, because last night, I'm trying to also grow the community action team. So as long as you look up the community action team on Facebook, bring a lot of what you know of the community to us in our Zoom meetings, which are every other week. We can really make something happen. So community action team, SchezzWho. Don't forget Conrad Schesventer for Virginia, where I spend a lot of my day talking politics on a lot of different pages. That's how I keep myself warmed up for shows like this, is because of Conrad Schesventer for Virginia. So look at all that stuff. And of course, I would also suggest people watch the Arrington Gavin podcast, because that'll be the next The Hill. That'll be the next, I don't know, Newsmax or something like that.
Well, look, the Hill. I don't know about Newsmax, but definitely. Well, hey, they're in the public. News Nation. There we go. I was like, did this man just say Newsmax? I'm about to throw up.
Yeah, that would have to be very conservative of you, Mr. Gavin. Yeah.
You know what? I do have a price. I can fake it for about a season. Then I can definitely be like, oh, I got a special now. It was lies. It was all lies, I tell you. but man, I truly appreciate the kind words. Look
you for having
again,
me
y'all.
on as well.
Absolutely. Again, ladies and gents, Mr. Conrad Schesventer, host of SchezzWho and also founder of the 757 Battle Cats. 757 Battle Cats. Be sure to check them out
Mr.
on
Seiko
Facebook.
Varner.
Yes, and Seiko Varner. Yes, shout out to Seiko as well. So y'all make sure to continue to support. Again, I told you about knowledge is power. Be sure to not look up your local local officials, man. What's going on in your community? Tune into this presidential election, your local elections, man. We got some serious stuff happening in our communities that is it's 2024. Obviously, inflation was a big thing last year and it's still continuing on right now. But people are upset, they're angry, they're struggling to put food on their table and things in that nature. So hey, be sure to make sure you do your knowledge. So again, hope you enjoyed this convo here on the Arrington Gavin podcast. Be sure to tune in every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it's iHeart, Spotify, Apple, you name it. You can tune into the Arrington Gavin podcast, as well as 1 p.m. on our YouTube channel, our Smooth Club Media, Facebook, Twitter, and as well as Rumble. Like I said, Rumble is literally we have no fans, but we're gonna garner some of them here and there. but yeah, we truly appreciate it. And once again, we are out. I hope y'all have a great evening. And yeah, just be sure to stay safe out there. So until next time, peace.